Thanks for applause.
Thanks for the intro, David. And lucky last, so we'll power through to the awaited drinks at the end. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to tell you about our Wim Creek project and a little bit about the Anax story. And that starts with delivery of near-term copper production from the Wim Creek project. We're aiming to essentially monetize that project, take it through to copper production within the next 2 years, which will see us in sort of fairly rarefied air with probably only 1 or 2 other potential producers in that time. We've developed a strategy for acquiring and developing projects, which we've rolled out at Wim Creek, and we plan to do that on other projects. So that's the discovery part of our corporate strategy. And then, of course, we've got exploration. We've landed an amazing tenement package with the Wim Creek project, and we are currently exploring on that. So I just want to talk a little bit about the copper supply side, and then a little bit more about the copper demand side, and then a little bit more about the copper supply side. So on the demand side, just want to say that copper's been used by humans for the last 8,000 years, and it's stood the test of time. It's still an amazing element. It's used in virtually every industrial pursuit that humans have, the urbanization of the developing world, and of course in this whole green energy revolution, it underpins a lot of that. So I think in terms of demand, it's very safe to say that copper will continue to grow. The supply side is probably a little more tricky for the general market to understand. It's a bit more opaque. When you look at current production, a lot of operations are affected by all sorts of things that aren't necessarily evident to the open market, and so often we see underperformance of operations, whether it's from geopolitical issues or supply chain issues, etc. But probably more importantly is the pipeline of projects coming up, and it's a key thing to note on the supply side is it takes up to 15 years on average to go from discovery through to production. 15 years. That's an amazing period of time. And the green revolution is not only creating greater demands on the demand side, but it's creating headwinds on the supply side. It's getting harder, more expensive, and longer to get projects into production. Of course, this is not only in the copper space, it's in all project development spaces. But all is not lost. As we've seen through time, technology always comes to the fore when you have these complete dislocations. And we certainly see that technology, we're unashamedly a technology-driven company, that technology can unlock value. And fortunately, some of the previous presenters have done some work there for me in talking about particle ore sorting, which is a key part of our technology suite. I just want to highlight that in terms of technology being applied to projects, if you go back in the copper space, back to the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, there were a whole range of copper oxide projects that had nowhere to go. They were sort of stranded assets. And then the strategy of cobbling together acid leaching, generally as a heap leach, solvent extraction and electrowinning, all coupled together, and all of these oxide projects suddenly had somewhere to go. So it's generally a combination of technologies, but it unlocks value and bang, off you go. And we certainly see that, and particle sorting technology underpins what we're doing, but it is a combination of factors that we believe will unlock value in these VMS-style projects, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. I just want to start off with the Wim Creek project. So we're situated in the central Pilbara between Port Hedland and Karratha, exactly equidistant. And in fact, probably most of you are more familiar with the Wim Creek pub, the pink pub that sits between the two towns on the Northwest Highway. We're actually currently working with the owners of that pub, the Nalama Corporation, traditional owners, to refurbish the pub. It stopped working a few years ago, and we're working with them to bring that back to serving beers to the residents of the Pilbara. It has a mining camp out the back that will be very useful for our development. So the Wim Creek project itself, we plan to, as I say, start producing copper within the next 2 years. It'll have a 7-year mine life. It'll deliver between $40 and $50 million a year in EBIT. We'll produce between 12 and 14,000 tonne a year of copper equivalent, predominantly copper, but with some zinc, lead, silver, and gold. It's a low capex development. It's a brownfields asset, so there's significant infrastructure already on site, and that means that the future development has low-end capex. We have Develop Global as our joint venture partner. They retain a 20% interest in the project. We acquired it off them 2 years ago. And probably most importantly, we have Anglo American who have given us an offer for debt financing for the project. Anglo American are looking for near-term copper production in stable regions, and that's exactly what we are, and we were very pleased to get them on board. The project has about 11 million tonnes of sulfide resources, and I expect that over the 7-year mine life, we'll mine about half of that, and we've got growth potential at 2 of the deposits, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a second. Now, you'll have to excuse me here. I'm a chemical engineer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about geology, because that really goes to the fundamentals of our strategy. What you can see here is the formation of a VMS, a classic formation of a VMS deposit. And when these VMS deposits form, you have the feeder system where the fluids come up and the metals precipitate, and then it punches out in this white smoker or black smoker, and then the metals settle down in these bedded layers of massive sulfides. And what you end up with is a highly stratified, heterogeneous deposit. And so after millions of years, you end up with this deposit, and along we come to mine it and process it. And what we're doing is just unpacking that geology. We're able to use particle ore sorting and X-rays to essentially look into the material that gets withdrawn from that deposit after it's been crushed. And we can use the differences in the structure of the deposit. So we're able to, you can see here, the feeder zone where you've got what they call the stringers, or the stockwork. You have the much lower grade area, and the ore sorters are able to very accurately pluck out the veinlets that are in that area. And then where you go into the massive sulfide portion at the top, you get quite a range of variation of grades, and we're able to profile those grades so that we're always putting through the highest value material through the plant. So just to put that into perspective, this is the Anax Nexus flow sheet, if you like. This is the flow sheet that we've developed, and it's similar to many other projects where you've got ore sorting in them, except we think we've got some additional layers of belts and braces, if you like. So what we're able to do is we mine at the best mining rate, and then we process at a rate that's dramatically less than that. So in our case, we're mining at 800,000 tonnes per annum, but processing at only 400,000 tonnes per annum, because the particle sorters have stripped out all of the low-grade material and dilution. And so you're essentially turbocharging the material that goes through the concentrator. We use that in parallel with a gravity circuit. The gravity circuit deals with the fine material. We then go to a second stage sort, and we pluck out the remaining sulfides, which then get subjected to a bioleaching process. And bioleaching of sulfides is sort of really the holy grail of sulfide processing. It's very difficult to get great recoveries. We've set ourselves a very low bar for that because most of the metals get captured in the concentrator. The high-grade metals all go through the concentrator, but all of the low-grade material gets exposed to this bioleaching process, and we pull out whatever we can. So we expect that we'll get recoveries of up to 50% in that, and that's just all upside. That's on sub-economic material that wouldn't go through the concentrator. And we currently have cultures of Wim Creek, local Wim Creek bacteria, working very hard in our columns down at CSIRO. We've done a huge amount of work, and we see lots of upside in that. Sorry, I just want to jump back, if I can, back to the Wim Creek slide, what I didn't talk about here is the project we expect will deliver in the order of about 300 million in free cash flow over the 7-year period. As I mentioned, about 40 to 50 million in EBIT. And I just want to highlight these numbers are all from the scoping study that we completed just over a year ago. We are completing a DFS, should be out in the next 2 weeks. We're really excited to get that out. So please take these numbers as the scoping study numbers. So here we are in the Pilbara. The orange tenements are our tenements right in the heart of the Pilbara. The reason I use this slide, it's obviously an expanded slide of what you saw before. You can see all of the VMS deposits around us. And the technology, the approach that we've taken at Wim Creek applies to all the VMS deposits in our territory and all round. I'd hazard a guess that in the next 5 years, virtually every VMS operation will employ ore sorting and gravity separation in some way, shape, or form. But the important takeaway from this slide is there are a number of VMS deposits around us that are currently don't carry the critical mass to justify building their own plant, permitting their own tailings dam. We plan to build what will be a processing hub, and then we'll have these satellite deposits feeding into that processing hub. So even though we don't own them at the minute, we'll be providing an opportunity for those that do to monetize them early through a processing hub. I won't go through this slide. This is what we've done over the last 2 years. It's been very busy. I do want to talk about our team. We've got an very experienced board, but our management team is who've driven this project through in just under 2 years. So we've got geologists. It's all about unpacking the geology. People think that this ore sorting process is all about engineering. It isn't. It's about geology. And so we've got a team of geologists, project managers. So our project manager, Andrew McDonald's a geologist. Wendy Beats, who's in auditorium with us here, is our exploration manager. We've got a dedicated environmental and permitting manager in Dan O'Hara, and then the commercial team under Janine. So we've got a core team driving the project forward, but importantly, we've also got partners. Nexus Bonham are our technical partners. They're specialists in ore sorting, been involved in sorting for the last 7 years, and we've also got Conrad Partners, who are our marketing advisors and critical in this process of marketing polymetallic products. On the corporate front, we've got 400 million shares on issue, market cap of $24 million only, and a shareholder base mainly of high net worth holders. I'm sorry, I'm charging through here a bit, watching the time. So our development strategy is taking the Wim Creek project forward. And this is a fantastic slide where you can see all of the infrastructure. So here you're looking at a drone image looking over some of the ponds that we've refurbished. At site, we've got all of the infrastructure that Straits Resources left behind from their heap leach operation. So the heap, the ponds, we've refurbished all their ponds. We've got offices, workshops. We've got reticulated gas to site, power station, water systems. All of this has allowed us to look at a very low capital development, but also to fast track the project. That's how we believe that we can get into production within the next 2 years and possibly 18 months. So just taking a deeper dive into the project itself, these are some of the resources. Here you can see the Mont Capri project. This will be an open pit. It was mined by Straits back in the day. They mined only the oxides off the top. So here we are digging into the sulfides. You can see an oblique section of the deposit, and you can see the warmer colors at the top are the massive sulfides, the higher grade massive sulfides at the top, and then the yellows at the bottom indicate the stringer zones. And that's where the ore sorters would really come into their own. More of the same for Wim Creek. And then I just want to highlight, this is our Evelyn deposit underground mine. It's open at depth. We put a hole in there late last year, came back with fantastic results. It's only 170 meters vertically down. You can see 2 chutes that could come together. Salt Creek, the same. This is another satellite high-grade underground mine, open at depth, so we've got immediate growth potential. And then I'll just pile through. This is the ore sorting plant that's been designed, come out in our feasibility study. The processing plant, which has been designed by Gecko, is a modular plant. And then On the ESG credentials, Mark went through the benefits of ore sorting on that. You reduce tailings, power, water, chemicals. So all of those come with the technology approach that we have. And then I just want to jump finally to the exploration. We are in an emerging gold province right next door to De Grey. We sit in the Wim Creek Greenstone Belt, fantastic prospectivity, not only on the base metals, but in the gold space, so lots of blue sky stuff. I'll end it there, and if you want to find out any more about Anax or Wim Creek, please come and have a chat to us. Thanks very much.